Hello dear audience, welcome to Digging Deep. অনেকদিন পরে Digging Deep এর নতুন একটা podcast and I'm really excited to introduce to you Brother Leo Pereira of St. Joseph's because I was also a student of St. Joseph's and he's like the one of our most prime figures of St. Joseph's education. Brother Leo was an assistant headmaster at St. Gregory's. Then he joined St. Joseph's as a vice principal, and from 2007 to 2011 he was our principal of the school. তারপরে উনি PhD করতে 2011 University of Incarnate Word San Antonio Texas PhD করতে যান and 2016 উনি ব্যাক করেন। তো রাইট নাও আমরা নটরডেম ইউনিভার্সিটিতে বসে ব্রাদার লিওর সাথে কথা বলতেছি and this is such an exciting experience because I'm sitting in front of like one of our fathers who has fathered so many children of him. So Brother Leo, thank you so much আমাকে আজকে সময় দেওয়ার জন্য এবং সামনাসামনি বসে কথা বলতে পারাটা it's a huge privilege. Thank you Brother Leo.
It is my pleasure.
ওকে ব্রাদার লিও আপনাকে আমি অনেক দিন পরে আপনাকে অ্যাপ্রোচ করার আমার খুবই এক্সাইটিং একটা রিজন হলো আপনার পিএইচডি থিসিস, আপনার পিএইচডি ডিসার্টেশন, যেটার টপিক হলো এথিক্স ইন এডুকেশন, ভ্যালুস ইন এডুকেশন, এবং this is something which has affected us very deeply because যদি আমি বলি প্রতিনিধিত্বকারী of all the Josephites স্কুল পাস করার পর this was one of our burning questions because স্কুলটা ছিল একটা দুনিয়া এবং স্কুলটা দুনিয়া থেকে বের হয়ে আমরা যখন অন্য আরেকটা রিয়েলিটিতে চলে আসলাম, যেই রিয়েলিটিতে আমরা ব্রাদারহুডে নাই, যে যার মতো বড় হওয়া শুরু করছি, তখন ভ্যালুস বা এথিক্সের যেই কি বলবো ভ্যালুস বা এথিক্সটা হঠাৎ করে এমনভাবে বিভিন্ন রূপ নেওয়া শুরু করলো বা এক একজনের ইমাজিনেশনে ভ্যালুস বা এথিক্সের জাস্টিফিকেশন এমনভাবে চেঞ্জ হওয়া শুরু করলো যে অনেক বছর আমরা অনেক জোসেফাইটস লস্ট ছিলাম। তো এরকম লস থাকতে থাকতে যখন আবার নিজেদেরকে ফেরত পাওয়ার চেষ্টা করতেছি আমি বা আমার মতো আরও অনেকেই, দেন আই স্টাম্বলড আপন অন ইয়োর ডিসার্টেশন। এবং ব্রাদার লিও, আপনি যে কখনো বলেন নাই যে আপনি পিএইচডি করছেন, এটাও আমাদের কাছে খুবই হিউজ একটা সারপ্রাইজ যে আমাদের ব্রাদার লিও, ওয়ান অফ আওয়ার ফাদার্স, হ্যাজ ডান আ পিএইচডি বিকজ as Josephites we constantly look for inspiration and Brother John এবং Brother Leo আপনারা ছিলেন আমাদের one of the like highest peak of inspiration, যে কিভাবে ব্যবহার করতে হবে, কার সাথে কিভাবে কথা বলতে হবে academically. This was a huge inspiration এই মোমেন্টে in our lives. So Brother Leo, আমি কথা না বাড়ায়, আমি প্রচুর কথা বলি, আমি সরি, বাট কথা না বাড়ায় আমি আপনার টপিকের ফার্স্ট সাইটেশন, আপনার পিএইচডি ডিসার্টেশনের ইন্ট্রোডাকশনের ফার্স্ট সাইটেশন হলো মোরো 2011, সোসাইটি হ্যাজ আ গ্রেটার নিড ফর পিপল অফ ভ্যালুস দেন ইট হ্যাজ ফর স্কলার্স। কেন আপনি এই সাইটেশনটা দিয়ে আপনার থিসিসের ইন্ট্রোডাকশন করলেন, এটা আমি জানতে চাই।
Thank you so much, Tawhid, for picking me up and searching for me from the web or whatever you have seen my dissertation. If I want to say, I should start like this. During my tenure at St. Gregory's and St. Joseph, I have encountered a good number of old students, those who used to visit school, meeting the teachers and headmasters and brothers. So they used to always recognize that whatever they have become today, it was due to the school, due to the teachers teaching and headmasters or principals' encouragement and inspiration. During that time, I used to think that, is it true that what they are saying, they mean it, or they are saying it just for the sake of saying it? So that was one of the query within me, was that in our society today, there are lots of people, those who are educated, well established, but as a person they have not been able to present themselves as such according to their academic background. One of the issues appeared to me that as a person, the qualities and values they are supposed to have, perhaps they are not having it. Therefore, when they go out, as you said, that when you leave the school campus, you are sort of lost. Those are the people that they are lost as a human person. They were not able to deal with the people, behave with the people, and perform their functions, what they are supposed to call for as an educated person. So that's why when I was reading and I came across this phrase that society has a greater need of persons of values than scholars, I thought that is a good starting point to think about it a little bit more critically, deeply, what it means to me and what message this particular area can give to the society and people, those who think about the society. But I am very, in a way, grateful to you that at least there is someone who is thinking in the same line that very few people started to think about it.
Yes, but like, of course, this is a great starting point for your work. But I also wanted to know, like, people, when I talk with people about values and ethics, people try to justify or define values and ethics according to their standards. So behavior is different, approach is different, definition of values and ethics are also different, and maybe it comes from the same source, but it branches out according to one's characteristics. So my next question, what I would love to know from you is, what do you mean by values education, or how are you defining it?
Well, when I started to think about my dissertation and reading different research articles and different books, there is a theoretical approach that if I specifically speak about values education, that will mean that the activities of the school that initiated or conducted for the student with the purpose to teaching specific values, that is according to the theory they call it values education. But as you said, that probably it will be better if I directly say to what do I mean by values.
Yes.
It is like that we have many people, those who are educated, probably educated, but still they do some of the practices which are not accepted by the society. Say, for example, receiving bribe or not telling the truth. They are educated, but they are not practicing honesty or similar qualities. So when we say values are some of the qualities and characteristics of a person that make that particular person to practice those things in their life. As I understand, we have a choice to make. If I am in office for admission as a school administrator, there are many people will come with the offer that if I admit one student, they will offer a donation for the school. We never received any donation because our policy was this, that all the students will be admitted based on merit. So there is no different in that particular setup. So the people, those who are educated, that is one standard, and those educated people, when they practice honesty, respect for other people, good relationship, integrity in their life, those are the values that make that person more valuable than just for education. That is the area what I focused on.
Okay. And when did you do your research work? Was it when you are assistant headmaster of St. Gregory's, or when you were an acting vice principal in St. Joseph's?
Well, I completed my, I actually took a break from St. Joseph in 2011. So in 2011, I went for my studies. So that is the time when I started thinking about doing research in that particular field.
Okay.
And obviously my research field was Bangladesh, and I think I should spell it out that I picked up the former student of St. Joseph as my research participant.
Okay.
And to be very specific about the research topic is like values education in Bangladesh, understanding the perspective of high school graduates.
Okay.
So what I wanted to find out that what do the students think about values education while they were in the school.
Okay.
So eventually I interviewed some of the old students of St. Joseph, those who graduated from St. Joseph between 1993 and 2003.
Okay.
So during that time, I was not there. So I picked up the students, those who were not a student during my term.
Okay.
The purpose was so that they are not biased when they talk to me.
All right. And so, brother, what do you see? What did you see after this thorough, detailed work?
Well, result was sort of surprising for me. Surprising in this sense that I never thought students were learning some of the values when they were in school, because during that time, the timeline was 1993 and 2003. In the curriculum, there was no values education, and teachers did not talk about it that much, sometimes once in a while, one or two teachers. And more surprisingly, according to the research participants, as they mentioned, that they acquired some of the values or those values through participating in different co-curricular activities, not in the classroom.
Okay.
So that was one of the interesting part, because at St. Joseph, co-curricular activities is a big issues. Many students participate there, but my initial thought was that was just to take a break from the academic studies, to have a sort of fun time, relax. But I never thought that student would be learning some values through participating in different co-curricular activities, games, sports, debate, and cultural
Chess,
forum,
cultural
chess,
forum, yes.
and another interesting issue came up that most of the participants mentioned that they have learned to be disciplined, or they learned discipline when they were at school. But their statements were like this, that while they were students, they did not like discipline. They mentioned that we hated, because it was so strict. If you come late, you are given detention, you are supposed to clean the field. But when they left the school, went to the university, and now they are working in their corporate sector, then as they looked back, they realized that though they did not like discipline during their school life, but it became a values in their life as they are in their family life and in their corporate sector, which was quite surprising for me.
Okay. I also have another question, like do you see any crisis of values, like the students you interviewed for your research participants, you said not in your term, so 1993 to 2003 was obviously not your term, but during your term when you were a principal of St. Joseph's, did you get a chance to participate any students and compare the values, like how they talk, how they think? Is there any changes? Are there any changes over this period of 12 years or 10 years?
It is, I think we should admit that as time is going on, lots of things are changing. The curriculum is changing, the attitude of the people are changing, the environment of the country is changing, and the world realities are changing. So in that context, there is a concern of at least those who make policies, and particularly people like us who work in the academic arena, that most of the time students are exposed in negative reality and negative situation where values are absent, and many times it has been seen that probably students need to be guided to be respectful to other people, to practice honesty, to be caring to their classmates, to be respectful to the parents and teachers. I think this is not only at St. Joseph, this is the reality of the time in the city, and not only in Bangladesh, elsewhere. So that is why in the long run, in 2010, in the new education policy, government has introduced and incorporated values education as a subject, and as well as one of the primary objectives of education policy. So that also prompted me to work in this area.
Okay. Brother, like in other countries, like let's say like I don't want to term it developing, like I'll just say like countries with rich histories have incorporated the teachings or the learnings of moral and ethics into their lives and into their education. They have separate entity for that. Philosophers and scientists, social scientists are highly respected and remembered for their contribution in this domain. But Bangladesh also has a plethora of philosophers and scientists as well, but their work are not read or not being introduced to the school children. Or we didn't actually, when we were students, we read English books, we read English fiction books, but non-fiction, it was more or less absent other than religion books. So is there any gap of passing through? Because books are very well written, whereas if I listen to a lecture, like my memory, even if it's very active, I will lose some of it. But why didn't we have this kind of education in a written form? Where was this gap? Like, why is it being introduced now? Like, I wanted to know, because in your work you mentioned the colonialized times and how did this values education evolve from that. So can you please elaborate on this history, on why are we thinking about it now, not before? What happened?
This is a very good question, and I have my perspective regarding it and very limited resources from other researchers. As I was going through different documents in the education policy of 1974, there was a chapter formal character education in our education policy. It was a 2 or 3 pages chapter. But unfortunately, that was written only in education policy. It is sort of a mystery, or I do not know why the policymakers did not think of implementing something in that area so that students are exposed in this content and context, and also organize some sort of activities regarding it. Later in 2010, it came out as a subject. However, even in the education policy of 2010, it was not outlined how this moral education or values education will be implemented in the institutional setup. And as you have mentioned that in Bangladesh there are quite a good number of writers like Lutfur Rahman and few other persons like this. They have written quite a good number of books. Those books were never been introduced in academic setup. There were few texts by Rabindranath Tagore or Nazrul or some other persons like that, but eventually in the long run those texts were taken up from the textbook. So what you said is I think from our political perspective or policy making perspective, we need to think more critically and more strategically to implement this values education. Those will help our current generation to be a better human being. Like since I studied in USA, there they call it character education. They have an organization, those who work on that area, they organize different seminars, prepare books and contents for educationist, practitioner, and as well as for the students. They have also Association of Moral Education. They organize conferences, call different professionals to present their papers. In my experience as a teacher in Bangladesh, I have very limited exposure in those setup. Only one organization, Caritas Bangladesh, they had a project. They call it ETR, Education to Reality. They tried in a limited way to train up some of the teachers how to teach values among the students. Other than that, we did not have, at least in my knowledge, I have not seen much about it.
Okay. Brother, like we are almost at the end of our podcast, but you cited Kohlberg's 3 levels of cognitive development theory, and I think at the 3rd level, one person tries to self-realize or self-conceptualize how to behave or how to conduct his values and properly act his values. So let's say I'm a 2018 school student of St. Joseph's or any other schools where I feel the need of values because I'm constantly using internet or I'm constantly seeing the differences of people, a person with a good behavior and a bad behavior, and I'm questioning myself, how should I behave? What would be your suggestions to these new school children who are starting to feel lost? How can I educate myself with values?
Well, this is also another good question. I am still working in that area. As you mentioned about Kohlberg's 3 stages, like first one is pre-conventional, as we know that in that level we learn because of punishment or reward. So if I tell the truth, then probably you will give me a chocolate, then I will be encouraged to tell truth. Or if I make a mistake or if I lie, then you will punish me, I won't lie. From that it goes to the conventional level. Since in the society it is expected that the people will be respecting one another, telling the truth and do some good practices, because there are laws and rules and society wants it. That's how those who learn, they continue learning that. And in post-conventional level, that is sort of rare. According to the research, they said that usually nobody reaches to that level. But somehow in my dissertation, analyzing the responses of the participants, I kept one, if I'm not wrong, I guess that was respect in post-conventional level. That is the level where a person chooses by himself without any influence that I want to, I decided to practice honesty, I decided to practice respecting other people. And in today's context, it is even more complicated for the students, younger students, because there are so many things available which is not expected. Like wherever you go, you will have issues that probably cheating, lying, not helping others, being selfish. So I think we need to create an environment in the educational institution where the environment itself will help the student to be honest, to be truthful. I need to go back to the research participants. Quite a good number of participants mentioned that, brother, we learn these values because once you enter into the environment of St. Joseph, all the programs, if you just follow the programs will make you to learn some of the values. So this is one of the things that we need to create an environment and a culture where the values and ethics will be practiced. On the other hand, probably it is one of the responsibility of the education to help the students to make a choice, because we cannot present only one thing to them. When they are going outside, they are getting the negative reality and positive reality, negative values and positive values. If a student learn how to make decision, which one shall I choose, which one shall I pick up, that mechanism is going to help that particular student to choose the better one for him. If we do not teach them how to make decision, how to choose, then there is a danger that he may make a bad choice which will not be helpful for him.
Cool. Yes, like when you were telling this to me, my mind came up with this, that in the same context, maybe we have 3 or 4 or 5 different ethical choices which all leads to a good conclusion, but each of them has different impacts.
Yeah.
So learning to choose or learning to think about how my approach should be and which better fits me, or I bring out my best into putting effort into that choice, is of also another education, which we talked about before, learning how to think about these things. And brother, I want to wrap this conversation up with my last question. What is the response of your dissertation or your work in the whole world? Because you are in Dhaka, but how has the world appreciated your work? Can we learn some more about your work, about the response of your work?
To say about that, my dissertation has been uploaded in ProQuest website, that is our university official website for posting all the dissertations. So as I check frequently or sometimes, I see that the people are reading my dissertation and they are citing those in their own work. One good news for me, at least, one of the Latvia-based publishing house, Lambert Academic Publishing House, they offered me that they thought this is a good work and necessary for the academic arena, academic institution. They wanted to ask me that if I would be willing to publish that book, a dissertation as a book. So that Lambert Academic Publishing House, they published my dissertation as a book. It is available on the market. And after coming to Bangladesh, I have shared my findings with quite a good number of groups, particularly teachers and youths, and I think it is a necessity for this time, and in most of the academic setting, schools and colleges, I spoke quite a good number of teachers, quite a good number of institutions. So I think it is a need and people want to learn about it and also practice it in their own profession. So that's my assessment finally.
Congratulations, brother. Great work. And I want to thank you from all the Josephites. From all the people I have known, from all the Josephites I have known, we have always held you in a father figure. And it's a great privilege that after so many years, we are still learning from you. And this kind of blessings doesn't come very often, because we all are trying to progress in our lives, and a father figure from the past is constantly teaching us still now, and with a very good healthy shape and with such energy. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much from all the Josephites who have been listening to this podcast. Thank you so much.
Tohit, from my part, I thank you so much for reaching out to me and finding me out from the web or wherever. Thank you so much for taking the initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you too.